Everybody, welcome back to Wicked Good Sports. This segment is, of course, Miami Minute, where we talk about all the latest going-ons with my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins. So let's get into it. Coming off of the second preseason game, the first big story is, of course, Tua. How did he do? And I think this will be a recurring theme. It was already one of the big stories in our first video, and Tua is potentially one of the most scrutinized quarterbacks I've ever seen. From the way some people talk about him, you would think that he is the next coming of Ryan Leaf or Jamarcus Russell. I personally don't feel that way. I think he had a solid rookie season, but people are already writing him off as a huge bust and lambasting the Dolphins for not picking another quarterback, especially where last game, Justin Fields played very well against the Dolphins' second and third stringers. So Tua in this game against the Atlanta Falcons, where the Dolphins won 37-17, put up a very solid stat line. He went 16 of 23 for 183 yards and a touchdown to Myles Gaskin. And he also led another drive that ended in a touchdown, also by Myles Gaskin. That was a 1 yard TD run. He played the entire first half and gave the Dolphins an opportunity to add 3 more at the end of the half, but alas, there was a missed field goal. And hey, it's the preseason. That's what this is for. Even for our Pro Bowl kicker, sometimes things don't go that great. So what stood out to me on the other side of the ball was Sam Eguavon. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name right. I do apologize to Sam if he sees this and I did not pronounce it correctly. I also have a last name that is quite difficult to pronounce, and that's why I just go by Brian Marr on this channel. So, Eguavoen had 4 sacks in this game, including a safety. So big numbers for the player who, he came out of the CFL just a few years ago. He had a little bit of playing time in 2019 and then didn't play too much last season, but I think they used that time to develop him. And if this is any indication of the player that he's going to potentially develop into, that's great, because the Dolphins are going to need to replace Kyle Van Noy and even Shaq Lawson to a degree for their pass rushing prowess. And I do think Van Ginkel will step up to take that Kyle Van Noy role, but you can never have too many pass rushers in the NFL. So, Sam, good on you. Hope that we get to see you play and play well more as the season goes on, especially in this third preseason game. And hey, potentially week 1. Other notable things about this game was, of course, Myles Gaskin getting the start and a good amount of playing time in the first half over Malcolm Brown. I think he will be the starting back going into the season, but having Brown and Ahmed as his backup / rotational guys can only help the Dolphins going forward, because as you all remember last season, Gaskins got COVID and then an injury, and he's just unavailable for a lot of the season. When he was playing quite well, but I think having a kind of 3-headed monster in the backfield will do wonders to keep all 3 of them healthy and available as the season goes on. But yeah, in this one, he had 2 touchdowns, looked very impressive, and just very excited to see what he can do going forward. And then finally, I want to give a shout out to Mac Hollins for the second week in a row. He played quite well and really impressed me. The Dolphins all of a sudden have a very crowded wide receiver room with Parker, Fuller, Wilson, and Waddle. And then we have some other players fighting for those remaining positions. Grant, of course, he's an all-pro kick returner, but, he's struggled as a wide receiver, so we'll see how he does. And then Mac Hollins, he's played quite well, I've seen in practice, and then played well in the 2 preseason games so far, stepping in for, of course, Parker and Fuller and Wilson, who haven't played at all in the preseason yet, and might not, just because, especially Wilson, he's coming back from a year off, and then Parker and Fuller have dealt with injury concerns in the past, so really no reason to risk them this season. Of course, we had Bowden go down in practice, and he is on IR, so that does open up some space for these other wide receivers to compete and to potentially make the team for week 1. So we'll see there. Hollins in this game had 4 receptions on 5 targets for 49 yards, which is very good. And I think he's just shown himself as a very physical, solid ball catcher so far. He's, of course, well remembered and probably most famous for his catch after Ryan Fitzpatrick nearly had his head removed and threw a no-look pass to him to set up a game-winning field goal against the Raiders. That was actually our first video on this channel, so if you want to have a little nostalgia for the last good moment for the Dolphins last year before getting absolutely obliterated by the Bills the next week, check that out. Sort by oldest upload if you're curious. And yeah, I think Mac Hollins will make the team personally, because I think he's a decent receiver who does provide some special teams play as well. Well, we shall see. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of the wide receiver situation for the Dolphins? Who do you think is in? Who do you think's out? So we'll see what happens with this third preseason game. I don't expect a lot of the starters to play. In the past, the third preseason game was kind of the tune-up game, but I think with only having 3 preseason games, we will probably see, a shift to the second preseason game being the tune-up game, as we saw a lot of the starters played the first half. But, it's important for other players who are on the bubble to potentially see where they are going to end up, be it on the team or put some solid tape out for other teams. So that's all we have for you for this Miami Minute. Obviously, a lot longer than 1 minute, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will stick around. We have tons of sports videos from covering, the Saints, the Patriots, the Celtics, the Bruins. We are New England based, of course, here at Wicked Good Sports. So if you're interested in any of that, plus just general interesting sports news, this is the place. Help us get to 100 subscribers so we can get that custom URL. You can follow the channel on Twitter at WG Everything or at Wicked Good Sport, on Instagram at Wicked Good Everything, Twitch at twitch.tv/Wicked Good Everything, and on TikTok, search Wicked Good Everything. I'm Brian Marr. This has been Miami Minute and Wicked Good Sports. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.